What was in fashion when you were a teen?
When I was what?
What was in fashion when you were a teen?
A teen? That reminds me of a picture of me in a suit that my folks, of course, they were still buying my clothes, and I said to my mother, "Why did you let me wear such long skirts? I look like a little old lady." She said that was the fashion, long skirts, because I had the suit and the hemline was way down almost to the ankles. Yeah, so I guess I wore apparently my mother was seeing to it that it was in my teenagers things that I was wearing that I was in style, I guess. So, but the style those days was more subdued, mostly skirts and sweaters and blouses maybe. And when I was in high school, I remember I wore just a lot of skirts and blouses, and it was nothing fancy. I remember one particular dress, though, that my mother bought for me, and it was at a place called the Fashion Shop. And I was really pleased to be having a dress, and I can tell you right now that it was real small little red and black squares, check. The check was just complete checkered, and it was velveteen. And I can see that dress yet. And oh, did I ever think I was the cat's meow when I wore that dress. And I was so surprised that my mother would buy me that dress. And it was the same way for the senior prom. I remember getting a dress that I liked very much. It was very pretty. It was long to the floor, of course, and it was sort of a blue. It was sort of a bluish color, you know. And the interesting thing is, I was invited down by a former classmate of mine who was at West Point, and no, at Annapolis. I mean, Annapolis is the Navy. And he was at Annapolis, and he invited me to come down for a weekend and to go to a dance. And so I took that dress with me. And I remember so well, there was another girl that had a dress just like mine. And I was a little embarrassed, but those days, it didn't make that much difference. But I was reminded of the story about Mrs. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. She had a party at the White House, and she invited this lady. This is a true story. It was in the Reader's Digest. And she invited this lady to the White House. And this lady was one of the 10 best-dressed women in the United States. She was on the high list. And she didn't know what to wear, but she picked out a dress anyway. And of course, those ladies don't wear the latest style. They were the high style. And she wore this dress. She decided on this dress. And she got to the White House and comes into the room where the party was. And my goodness, she had on the identical dress that Mrs. Roosevelt had on. She was so embarrassed, of course, and Mrs. Roosevelt, she was just a wonderful lady. The dresses were about 8 or 10 years old, actually, but high style, you wear them all the time. So Mrs. Roosevelt went over to her and whispered, "They've worn well, haven't they?" And to relieve this lady of her. So I thought of that thing that I read in the Reader's Digest, and I thought, well, I didn't go over and talk to this girl, who had the same dress as I had, and she didn't come in to talk to me either. But I was thinking, well, I guess if Mrs. Roosevelt can wear the same dress, that was for the party, then I don't have to be worried about the dress that I wore either. But it was a fun weekend down in Annapolis. Yeah, it was. We went to a ball game, of course. We went to a basketball game. So.